So I'd always been kind of an anxious soul since I was like a little kid, but it had been okay. It had been manageable. Um, but then when I was about 15, my father, with whom I was very, very close, died very suddenly, like over the course of a couple weeks. Um, and that kind of just set things off for me with anxiety. And things were just really numb for a while, and so it wasn't bad. But after that, I was a sophomore in high school. After that, it just got much, much, much worse. Just the daily functioning with the anxiety, feeling like I couldn't go to school. And it would just kind of vary between that and just terrible depression, where I also felt like I couldn't go to school, didn't want to see friends. And that went on for several months before I thought, this is not how I want to be living. And so we started trying to address the problem, and that was a long process that's still happening, but that's the fast version. He was 53, he was healthy, and then he started feeling a little bit sick for a couple weeks, and then suddenly he had 2 strokes, one in each half of his brain, that put him into a coma completely. And they said, why did he have strokes? And it turned out that he had metastatic kidney cancer for years, probably, that he never knew about, and that was it. There was nothing that could be done. So it was really rough because it was fast and there was no opportunity to talk to him about it. He never knew he had it, and so it was just very, very quick. And that's what I think threw me for the loop so much, is it was no time to think about it, no time to prepare. There was nothing. My family, my sister, it's just my mom and my sister and my dad and I, and we all dealt with it in our own way, but I tended to struggle more than they did with it, probably because I was young and my sister's married, so she had support there. For months, I was able to kind of just block it out and just go on with my life. But when that wasn't an option for me anymore, it would start with school, would be the first thing to be affected, where I would wake up and then I just wouldn't get up and I would stay there. My mom would come and talk to me and she would ask me, okay, are we going to go to school today? No. Or I would try and go to school and I would be panicky. Couldn't pay attention in classes. And that's kind of how I started knowing that there was a problem. And when it didn't go away, because my sister kind of came out of a funk, my mom did, but for me it just didn't go away. My mom decided to put me in therapy, which was fine. And that was somewhat helpful initially. But it just, over the course of months, it just didn't get better, even with that. And I went from just anxiety to being more and more depressed, where I felt like I couldn't function. Like I said, I couldn't talk to friends. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to church. I just kind of wanted to cease to exist, just kind of melt. And so we went and I talked to my doctor, like MD doctor, and I finally got just a simple antidepressant and a different therapist, and that was really, really helpful. And that took a long time to deal with. It's a long process. That diagnosis didn't come along until this summer, actually. I thought it'd just been general anxiety, but it wasn't going away with how they treat that, and it's like they weren't getting to the root of the problem. I was actually, the reason that probably the PTSD happened is I was in the room by myself when my father died. And just like that entire experience was kind of traumatic for a 15-year-old. So that's where that came from. But that happened later. PTSD didn't come along until this last summer, so about 4 years later. I just wasn't getting better like I thought I should be. I felt like I wasn't getting to the root of the problem, and it was getting frustrating for me. And finally I went and saw a psychiatrist, which was good. And he went through the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, like the DSM-5 with me. And he asked me very, very specific questions that I couldn't beat around. And I realized that I'd had nightmares surrounding my father's death, overwhelming concern about like where the rest of my family is, and kind of a closing off from other people around me, which are all big symptoms. And I thought, no, this wasn't traumatic enough for PTSD. That's for people who have like been to war, been abused. No, but he told me that's not how this works. And so hearing that felt really good, because I thought, oh, it makes sense. It's not just me handling something poorly. there's something more happening than I was giving myself credit for. And that kind of started things off because I was able to say, this is the problem, instead of just saying, okay, you're just anxious and you just need to kind of get it together. So starting that, first admitting it to myself that that might be the problem was huge. And then facing that with a therapist head on as the thing to solve, instead of just, I feel kind of anxious this week, or has been really, really helpful. Because I'm able to go through, and he has me break things down pretty much hour by hour or day by day of my experiences. And I'm able to kind of bring back things that I'd forgotten and work through things that I sealed off at that point, because I feel like it happened and I thought, nope, I'm never going to think about this again. But these things have a way of manifesting themselves somehow. And the better I can address it on my own and consciously, like the better I am overall.